Moms who know do less so they can focus on what matters most, taking care of themselves, their families, and living their God-given purpose. Moms who know focus on the little things they can do that grow to have a huge impact. You are connecting with your family, your true self, and your God-given purpose. You are a mom who knows. I'm so glad you guys are here with me on the Moms Who Know podcast. We have a great guest today. Nicole Atwood is here to talk about pelvic floor health. And I really enjoyed this. Is her second time on the show. I really had fun with her the first time. I had a lot of fun with her the second time. She is just so much fun to talk to. And she takes this topic that can be really, scientific and maybe even a little bit gross sometimes. And she just breaks it all down, makes it accessible, makes it so that you can feel hopeful in your body again. And that to me is the biggest thing, that if you're feeling like your body is not functioning properly, I hope you leave this episode with hope that you can change, you can function properly again, and you can strengthen those muscles that kind of get thrown off during pregnancy and delivery. Now, today's episode is sponsored by Moo2 System, and Moo2 System is an exercise and recovery program, and this would be a good fit for you if you have diastasis recti. That's the separation of the abdominal muscles. Sometimes it can make you still look pregnant after you've already had your baby. Maybe you're thin everywhere else, but you've got this belly bulge. A lot of times that's caused from diastasis recti. It's not anything, it's not that you're fat. It's not anything going on. It's just a separation of the muscles, but it can be retrained, strengthened properly, and put back into place. Moo2 is for you if you have a little leaking when you sneeze, or if you are not able to jump on the trampoline with your kids, or if you lack body confidence, or if you're looking to get healthy and lose some of that pregnancy weight in a safe and effective and really appropriate way for moms, then this is a great fit for you. I have been doing Moo2 System. I found it really helpful because for me, I definitely, after 5 kids, I am not the mom who can go and jump on the trampoline. I've got about a couple jumps in me and then mom's out, or else mom is going to pee her pants. And so I have found that Moo2 has really helped me to rebuild that pelvic floor health so that I'm not having to worry or stop and cross my legs when I sneeze. And I think a lot of moms are in that same place and looking for a real life solution, and Moo2 is definitely that. You can get all the details about Moo2 System at bit.ly/Moo2Mama, MUTUMAMA. That link is in the show notes. You can find that there, or again, it's bit.ly/Moo2Mama. And a huge thank you to Moo2 System for being this month's show sponsor. Hello and welcome to the Moms Who Know podcast. I'm your host, Chanel Nielsen, and I'm joined today by Nicole Atwood. Nicole, welcome back to the show.
I am so excited to be back on the show. I had such a good time the first time, and so I'm ready for round 2.
Yes, me too. So we did have a good time talking about core and pelvic floor health, and I have been excited to have you back for a couple of reasons. For one, the pin on Pinterest from the episode we did together gets so much love. People share it and click on it and do all kinds of things and are really interested, which tells me that a lot of us out there are struggling and want stronger core, want better pelvic floor health. We want to know about this. I am also excited because Nicole is so much fun, and we did have a great conversation before, and I just enjoy her personality, and so I think it's really fun to talk to her. And then third, you guys had requested earlier in the year when I asked, what are you looking for? What kind of things do you want to talk about on the show? I remember someone said, bring back guests that you've had before so we can kind of see where they are now and do follow-ups. So so many good things to look forward to in this one episode. So Nicole, let's start off by refreshing people's memory of who you are. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then tell us about your job and your role specifically with Mutu.
Oh, yes. Okay. So last time you guys met me, I was still the same person. So I am Nicole Atwood, and I am a mother of two. So now I have a 5-year-old little girl and a 2-year-old little boy. And by training, what I do is I'm a personal trainer. And so last time I was on the podcast, I was doing my own thing. I was a personal trainer. I was specializing in prenatal and postpartum. And I was meeting with clients at a gym I used to work at and then in my house. And I was helping women who were struggling with core and pelvic floor dysfunction. And last time I was on the show, I was a pro for the postnatal program Mutu system. And since then, all my wildest dreams have come true, and I now get to work for Mutu System. And what I do now is just the best job in the world. Seriously, I love what I get to do every day. So Mutu is a worldwide postnatal program, and we have over 60,000 mamas in our program. And the main thing that I get to do is I'm the community manager. And so what that is I get to support, guide, and educate the mamas that are going through their Mutu journey. We have a private forum that is part of our program. It's not a Facebook group. It's completely separate and in-house to our program. And this community is such a wonderful, safe place for our mamas to be able to ask any questions that they have, get support that they need, and to connect with other mamas that are on a similar journey as them. And my role as the community manager is I'm replying to all the questions, I'm giving advice, guidance, support, I'm running challenges. So we do a challenge every other month that is focused on, different areas of the program or different areas of health and daily living. And then I also provide monthly educational content that supplements our main program. And really, I just think of myself as the ultimate cheerleader for our Mutu mamas. I am so incredibly invested in them, their successes, their lives, their happiness. I just love them. And truly being able to be the community manager and to be officially on board with Mutu is just like my ultimate dream come true.
That's so fun that you get to do that. And, I think it's just so needed in this era that we're in. We have so much information, and yet sometimes you just want that personal touch. And so it's really great to have, like you said, a community, somewhere you can go and you can ask questions, and then to have, in you, this touch point, like someone who knows, not just another person who's kind of guessing and kind of trying to figure it out, but someone who has the knowledge and can really help people with their questions. So I think that's a really powerful and important thing, when people are looking for whatever they're looking for in life, is just that connection piece. So I love it. So let's dive in and talk today about pelvic floor. So to start off, can you give us a definition of what the pelvic floor is, and then what some of the functions of the pelvic floor are?
Yes, I would love to. And as I was kind of just, thinking over, our conversation that we were going to have, I just started laughing because I look at myself 5 years ago when I was pregnant with my first baby and I had my first baby. I didn't even know what a pelvic floor was. I had no idea what a pelvic floor even was. And so to be here now and to be able to actually understand my own body, but to be able to speak to other women who might not even understand their own body or their pelvic floor muscles or the importance of them, I'm just so happy to be able to have the knowledge I do now and to share that, because we need to understand what our pelvic floor is and what the role of it is, because it's so important. So your pelvic floor is part of team core. So team core also includes obviously the core muscles. You have the internal, external obliques, you have your rectus muscles, you have your transverse abdominis, and then you have the diaphragm and you have the multifidus muscle at the spine. And so if you're thinking of your core as a canister, your pelvic floor muscles are going to be the bottom of that canister. And your pelvic floor muscles extend from your pubic bone to your tailbone. And essentially, they act as a muscular sling, supporting your internal organs, your bladder, your uterus, your bowel. And these pelvic floor muscles also provide bladder and sphincter control for urination, as well as rectal sphincter control to allow bowel movements. And fun fact, healthy and functional pelvic floors also aid in sexual health as well. So you could say these muscles are pretty dang important.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that covers just so much of our overall health and day-to-day life and everything that we need. And yet it is interesting, like you pointed out, it's not something that we really think too much about, are concerned too much about until sometimes things happen. And a lot of times things happen during pregnancy and
Yes.
childbirth that kind of cause us to start thinking about it and to start focusing on this area of our body and how to get it back to what it was. Because I guess, if it's working properly, we don't have to think about it too much. But it's when it's in dysfunction that we go, oh, okay, I need to learn about this. I need to get myself back. I need to figure this out. So I know you're seeing a lot of moms who are coming to you in this position where things aren't working right. And let's talk a little bit about what they're feeling and what's going on internally, not so much physically, but with the way that they're feeling when they come to you and to Mutu.
Yes. And it's going back to what you said, when it's functioning right, you're not thinking about it. And oftentimes when there starts to be dysfunction and issues with the pelvic floor, you're right, it does oftentimes, not all the time, but often does coincide with pregnancy and birth. And the hard part about that is there's already so many things that are happening during pregnancy and birth. And so, newborn, sleepless nights, you're adjusting to a new baby, you're adjusting to a new body. And to have the pelvic floor all of a sudden become an issue that you weren't aware of before, it just adds another hard layer to either the transition into motherhood or adding another babe and another family member. And so there's often like this overwhelm that women feel where they're already going through so many struggles and adjustments. And then now all of a sudden they have a body that is not functioning and supporting them properly. And so we talk about pelvic floor health, but pelvic floor health is also mental health. Women, when they are struggling with their bodies, with their cores and their pelvic floors, they are struggling also mentally. Depression, insecurity, worries, anxieties. They're struggling with intimate relationships, painful sex, something that we are not talking about enough, but it is an issue for so many women. Disruptions in daily life, limited in activities that they want to do or they love to do, from like not being able to go out and do that trail run that clears their mind and brings them joy, or to be able to go jump on the trampoline with their kids and not worry because they know if they do one of those activities, leaking or pain or vaginal pressure is going to be an issue for the rest of the day. Women are having to prioritize the limitations of their body instead of being able to go out and enjoy themselves, enjoy their kids, and ultimately enjoy their life. These are some of the things that women are struggling with, and struggling mostly in silence, or being taught the message that this is just normal. This is the sacrifice we make as women to become a mother. And that messaging is so damaging, obviously, to our bodies physically, to just accept symptoms and issues, but also damaging emotionally and mentally to us as well.
Yeah, I remember when we spoke before, the thing that stood out to me the most in our conversation was you said, peeing your pants is common, but it's not normal.
Yes.
And that was like a newsflash to me because I really thought that was normal.
Yeah.
Like there are memes about it. Everyone jokes about it. My kids are the reason that I pee a little every time I sneeze. And, oh, we can't go jump on the trampoline because we're moms and that kind of thing. And so just even the very fact of having the conversation is huge to know that, oh, that this isn't normal, that, your body can return to functionality. That's just amazing in and of itself. And then I'm so glad you brought up all of these, the mental aspects, because there really is, when your body isn't working properly, it does affect so much more than just the way you feel physically. It affects what you can do, and then that reflects on how you feel about yourself. So if moms find themselves in this position, talk to us a little about what it means to take care of pelvic floor health and kind of what a routine looks like that involves taking care of that specific area of your body. We're told to exercise, right? And we know, okay, I want to go out and I want to exercise. Is it different than exercise? Is it the same? How do we care for our pelvic floor?
Absolutely. And this is such a good question to realize that there is so much that we can and should be doing to care for our bodies and specifically to care for our pelvic floor. So yes, exactly what you mentioned. The first thing that everyone thinks of when taking care of pelvic floor is exercising, and mainly Kegels. And while yes, there is an exercise component, truly taking care of your pelvic floor extends to your daily living, movement, and awareness as well. So let's first back up to the exercise part because it is important to talk about and what everyone associates with those Kegels. And Kegels are often misunderstood or they're taught incorrectly. But taking care of your pelvic floor muscles, it needs to involve more than just a bunch of quick squeezes that you do when you realize you haven't done it in a while, when you're at a stoplight, or, when you have a few moments, you're like, oh, I'll just get them in. And first off, as already mentioned, the pelvic floor extends from that pubic bone to that tailbone. And there are 3 points along there that you should be focusing on when properly recruiting the pelvic floor. You have the front at the urethra, you have the middle at the vagina, and you have the back at the rectum. And learning how to feel and isolate each of those points is so important. So when you're kind of taught with Kegels, you're not really taught that there are those 3 separate points. You're just taught to lift, 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 squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And we're leaving out vital information and points of the pelvic floor, and we're simplifying the pelvic floor a little too much. So learning how to feel and isolate each of those points is so important. And then learning how to engage them as a whole, lifting and releasing at the front, back, and the front, middle, and back all together. And a big element also not usually taught in your standard Kegel is connecting the recruitment of your pelvic floor with your breath. Exhale, engage, drawing up the pelvic floor at those 3 points, and then inhaling, releasing the length of the pelvic floor. They're slow, they're focused, and they're controlled movements. And not just bust out as many Kegels as you can, as fast as you can. Now, it's important to be working those muscles as consistently as possible on a daily basis. And so, for example, in Mutu, you have a 12-minute daily core and pelvic floor routine that will help to work and strengthen those muscles. And a side note with that is oftentimes there is a disconnect and a weakness or too much tension to begin with when women are starting a pelvic floor routine. And so at first it might be hard to feel those muscles, to even find those muscles. And that is often really discouraging and frustrating for a lot of mamas, but try not to get frustrated. It takes time, but the more you work on it, the better it becomes, which does lead to my next point. Outside of the typical exercising routine, the first most important thing is connection. Just being connected to that part of your body. So many women, especially after birth, mentally and oftentimes emotionally disconnect from their core and their pelvic floors. They don't want anything to do with that area right now, whether it's from insecurities or discomfort, or they're just so dang busy doing everything else. And so reestablishing that mental and emotional connection is so crucial and vital. And just checking in on what it feels like in those areas throughout the day, thinking about those areas, physically placing a hand there when you're doing your core or your pelvic floor work. Connection and touch are very powerful in healing. And then continuing on with, outside of typical exercising, learning new strategies that help decrease additional strain throughout the day. Bathroom habits are a huge one. Prop those feet up, ladies, when you go to the bathroom. Take extra strain off when urinating and being able to have easier bowel movements, and to also be able to empty the bladder fully and not put more strain on the colon when you are having a bowel movement. Again, bowel health is so vital to pelvic health. We say no to constipation and urination problems here. And then also connecting daily movements with breath and pelvic floor contractions. So your pelvic floor should, when functional, be recruiting automatically when needed in daily movements. So picking up things, coughing, sneezing, of course, exercising. When there is a disconnect or a weakness or too much tension, it often doesn't. And this causes more pressure and more strain being placed on those muscles that it cannot handle and accommodate. So learning how to recruit the pelvic floor again during day-to-day movements will have a huge positive impact. And then I know last time we talked a little bit about alignment, learning better alignment and breathing strategies that take the strain and pressure off and instead support those muscles and being able to do their job. So truly a routine, and you can't see me, but I'm air quoting routine, transforms more into weaving it throughout your day versus that one and done exercise approach. You forget about it until the next time you do it type of thing.
Yeah. Okay. So having gone through the Mutu system, I can see that it really is a routine and it really is worked throughout your day. There is, like that 12-minute exercise that you mentioned, but it's also alignment, how you're sitting. I love that you brought up going to the bathroom.
Yes.
So I think that is so like something we don't talk about, like, except when we only talk about it in reference to our kids, right? We talk about our kids' poop, but we never talk about our own.
Let's talk about our own poop. Let's bring it to life. Come on.
Right? Well, I'm just saying the Squatty Potty is like the best invention ever. And if you guys don't have one, you are missing out. And if you feel like you don't have the money to buy one, you don't have to have a Squatty Potty. Before we bought one, we got just a little stool, just a little footstool, and put it by our toilet, and it wasn't as convenient because it was kind of in the way, but it still does the job.
Can I just say, I am a freak about propping my feet up when I go to the bathroom. So like you were saying, if you don't have the money to afford a Squatty Potty or like some official poop stool, don't even worry. Like when I am somewhere that I don't have a Squatty Potty, I am like the person who is finding like a trash can to turn over on its side or like finding extra toilet paper rolls to like stack on each other to put my feet up on. And we were cleaning out our house, even just a few weeks ago. And my husband, he just despises our Squatty Potty. He thinks it's so gross. And he was like, can we please get rid of this? And I was like, don't you dare touch my Squatty Potty. Go put it back and leave it alone.
Well, once you have used it and you're like, oh, this just makes so much sense. Like this, your body is in alignment.
Yes.
You do. And so, I mean, it really helps. So I'll just,
So we're putting that announcement out, ladies. Find something to prop your feet up on and feel the blessed difference.
Yes. Okay. So true. I love it. Now, there was one other thing I wanted to touch on. that you talked about, which is this. You said it takes time to find those muscles and to really, we think we're doing a Kegel or we're not sure. So you said practice, but is there anything else, either like a technique or a visualization or anything that you can help us to know if we're engaging those muscles correctly?
Absolutely. There are so many cues. There are so many different things. And this kind of goes back to that educational content I was saying that supplements. What I do is give, just diving deeper into these different types in video content. And so I even made a whole video about this because different women connect with different visuals. And exactly, it's about finding a cue that works for you. And so oftentimes a Kegel is the first touch point. If you're like, do a pelvic floor lift, people are like, what does that even mean? But if I'm like, do a Kegel, they're like, oh, okay, I know. And so oftentimes it's like, okay, those are the muscles that you're trying to think of. And if you're still like, I don't even know what a Kegel is, think about when you go to the bathroom and you're peeing and you are stopping and starting the flow of urine, those are the muscles that we're talking about. That is part of the pelvic floor. And so just throwing out some quick visuals that you can do when you are exhaling and you're focusing on lifting up those pelvic floor muscles, you can think of your vagina as a straw and you're slurping up a smoothie and you're lifting those muscles up and slurping it up like a straw. Or you can imagine when you are exhaling and drawing up the pelvic floor that you're picking up something with your vagina. So a grape is often something we use. So that lifting sensation, you're drawing something up into you. Some other cues are an elevator. I love using an elevator because I think it brings the depth to the pelvic floor that is needed. So if you imagine your pelvic floor as an elevator has kind of like a ground level, a lobby level, and then it has different floor levels above, and usually it has a basement level. So your pelvic floor is just the same. Your pelvic floor kind of lives at the lobby level. And when you engage it, you are moving that elevator up to different levels. And you should really be able to, when you have a strong functional pelvic floor, feel the different levels. You can kind of bring it up just a little bit, bring it up higher, and then at highest engagement level. And then, for example, when you urinate or you have a bowel movement, your pelvic floor is actually descending. it is downward opening up to release. And so when you are doing a pelvic floor lift, you can exhale and imagine lifting those pelvic floor muscles up into you at different levels, and then also lowering at different levels. And you can get all sorts of complex when you start to feel those muscles, and play around and just get connected to how it feels when you can lift up and draw, and then also inhale and release the muscles.
Oh, those are so good. And I hope that you guys, as you're listening, we're doing those.
Yes.
Like, it's really helpful. It's like you're guiding us as, okay, do this, do this. And I think that then once you feel that, once you've kind of tuned into that, it's a lot easier to access it later.
Yes. And sometimes, especially if you're like, what are you talking about? Number one, I always say, close your eyes, get rid of visual distractions around you, close your eyes so you can turn inward and focus on what is happening inside your body. And then another tactile thing that can help is to actually take your hand and place it outside of the vulva. You don't have to go into your vagina, just do it over your pants, but even placing the hand down there and feeling, that's where the movement is coming from. That's where the pelvic floor is lifting. Again, it's about that connection piece. So if you're having a hard time, doing those tactile and visual practices to help you turn even more inward to really find and feel what's happening in the pelvic floor.
Yes, love it. And maybe if you're out for a walk while you're doing this, maybe don't do that one. Maybe do that one at home.
Don't want your neighbors thinking you're a creep or something. So yes, when you're in the privacy of your own home, and for safety issues, don't close your eyes while you're walking.
Love it. Okay.
That brings up another good point really fast is when you are starting to try to find and feel these muscles, it is going to be easier to be doing it lying down. There are different, obviously, things involved, lying versus sitting versus standing versus walking. And it's going to be much more difficult to feel and find the pelvic floor muscles at first if you're out doing a walk versus if you're lying on your back in a room with your eyes closed. So start there, lying down, fully focused. And then as you really build up strength and connection, you're going to be able to really feel that pelvic floor when you're out on your walk. And so it's finding your levels and meeting your body where it's at so you can really make the most of the time you're spending connecting to your pelvic floor.
Oh, so much. Okay. This is so much good stuff in here. I love it. Now, you mentioned earlier that the pelvic floor can actually be too tight. Sometimes it's too loose. Sometimes it's too tight. So talk to us about the differences and kind of what that looks like.
Absolutely. So when we say too loose, we actually mean weak. There's a weakness. Just like any other muscle become weak or too tight, the pelvic floor muscles are no exception. So too loose is there's a weakness. And so issues that come up with a weak pelvic floor could be pressure, pain, bulging, fullness in the vagina or the rectum, or both. It feels heavy down there. Urinary incontinence, the most commonly talked about symptom, less commonly talked about, yet just as real and just as important is fecal incontinence. Women are struggling with this, and we are not talking about it because we are embarrassed. And we need to stop being embarrassed, because the minute that we can stop being embarrassed and talk about it, we can find real answers and real help. So that is an issue. Back, abdominal, hip pain, lack of sexual sensation, and all of these things can lead to pelvic organ prolapse as well. And so pelvic organ prolapse it's essentially when the pelvic floor cannot support the organs that are on top of it. And the bowel, the uterus, the bladder, they start to literally fall out and descend from the pelvic floor because there's not the muscle tone and the support to hold those organs in place. And obviously, pelvic organ prolapse is going to lead to a lot of other symptoms and a lot of other issues. And just having a weakness or a little bit of dysfunction, if not taken care of, can over time lead to a prolapse. And so we want to stop it before it gets to that point. And then also associated on the flip side is a too tight or a hypertonic pelvic floor. And, we think like, oh, I'd rather have too tight of a muscle than a too weak of a muscle. But in reality, having a too tight pelvic floor has just as many issues, just as many consequences as a too weak pelvic floor. And then some other issues that can come from a hypertonic pelvic floor is urinary retention. You have to pee and you just can't get it to come out. And I don't know if you've ever struggled with that, but that is miserable. Like UTIs, you have to pee and nothing is coming. And that's another issue with a hypertonic pelvic floor can be frequent UTI infections, which are just miserable. And then constipation, when you have 2/10 of an anal sphincter and you physically cannot release those muscles, you're going to be constipated. And bowel health, again, crucial, crucial, crucial to pelvic floor health. And then painful intercourse, painful sex when you cannot release that vaginal opening. Nothing is getting in there, not a tampon, not a penis, nothing. And that is a problem when there is pain. And we often associate the word tight with strong. And again, I'm air quoting tight and I'm air quoting strong. And that's just incorrect. A too tight muscle is just as troublesome as a weak muscle. A muscle needs to be able to fully contract and fully release. And if there is weakness preventing a good contraction or too much tone or tension preventing a good release, it's going to result in problems.
Yeah. Okay. So good. And I love that you broke this down so people can kind of see where they need to focus. Now, as women start to put more energy into this and like, okay, I want to start to take care of my pelvic floor health. I need to prioritize
Yes.
this. What can they expect to see as far as changes? I know this isn't like a quick process. You do something one day and then boom, it's solved and it's fixed.
That would make it so much easier if it was like that, right? Like the magic golden solution for all of our problems.
That would be nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and this is like the golden question that everybody, mamas, they just want to know, when am I going to be fixed? When am I not going to have to worry or think about this? And I wish that I had a definite answer to give. But in reality, there is just no absolute on this. Every mama is different and every body is different, but especially in our program, our general answer to this type of question is, if you're doing a consistent routine, you're doing the Mutu system or, something, and you're doing it on a consistent enough basis, really, you should start to feel changes within around the first 4 weeks and really start to see changes, in the core area around 6 to 8 weeks. But, I talk to our mamas every single day. And so many mamas say that they feel changes even in that first week or so. They're small changes, but they are positive changes and improvements that they can feel that make them feel so hopeful and excited. And then you have the flip side where some moms are saying that it's taking them way longer and they're wondering why they're not already seeing improvement. And so it just completely depends on where each individual is starting from. You have a mama who's 20 plus years postpartum who is starting to work on her pelvic health with a grade 3 prolapse that's very symptomatic versus a newer mom who, doesn't really have a lot of, pelvic floor issues. It just kind of wants to strengthen and reconnect. Obviously, their two timelines are going to be different. It's going to take longer for, that mama with the prolapse and, being more years postpartum. But the great thing is that both of those mamas can see and feel so much improvement when they start to give their body the right tools and the right environment to facilitate healing. And that is so exciting that it is never too late to start. When you start doing it with the right tools and you're giving your body what it needs to be able to heal, that healing can start to happen.
Yeah. And that's just so hopeful for people. It's not like you have this short little window of, after you've had a baby and if you blew it, you blew it. It's a process and it's take care of your body where it's at today and then just keep on getting better.
And it's such a hopeful message in comparison to what so many women are being told. They're being told that surgery is the only option for diastasis. They're being told that, surgery for prolapse is the only solution. And they are not getting the message, the hopeful message that restorative exercise is amazing. Restorative exercise can heal you. And it is not this horror story that has to end in another massive surgery. And of course, surgery is the right decision for some people, but it doesn't have to be the only decision. And I think that's the message and the hope is that there is so much that you can do to help your body heal itself.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I just love the work that you are doing over there with Mutu. And then especially, you in particular with connecting with answering questions, with being this, the voice and the connection point for moms. So I ask all my guests this final question, which is this. What one little thing do you hope moms take action on because of what they've heard today?
I would hope that we as mothers and women can start trusting ourselves and our intuition, and to know that if something doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. And to know that you do not have to settle. You do not have to settle for a body that doesn't support you, a body that doesn't function, and a body that you don't feel comfortable and confident in. There is resources and tools to help you, and you deserve the dignity of a body that functions properly.
Oh, I love it so much. Nicole, so many good things today. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. This is my absolute passion to talk about, and I feel so strongly about it. And so I'm just so grateful for you for bringing me on, that we could have this just honest conversation that, quite frankly, is not happening a lot, and we need to be louder about these issues.
I love it. Well, thank you again. And thank you everyone for listening to Moms Who Know. So many good takeaways in this episode with Nicole Atwood. I hope that this was helpful to you and you learned information that you can take action on. One action you might be interested in taking is checking out Moo2 Systems. You can go to bit.ly/Moo2Mama. That's bit.ly/MUTUMAMA to get more details on how you can improve your core and pelvic floor health and have some of these results we talked about in this episode. Now, my question for you is this: what one little thing are you going to do differently or think about differently because of what you heard in today's show? Let me know on Facebook or Instagram at Moms Who Know Podcast. Reach out via email, tell a friend, let them know what you learned today. And as always, thank you so much for being here. We'll see you next time on Moms Who Know.